Hello and welcome to the Total Soccer Show MLS Eastern Conference 2017 Very Specific Prediction Special. I am Daryl Grove with the long titles, and I'm joined by Total Soccer Show's first ever homegrown player. It's Taylor Rockwell. Hello.
Hello. It's an honor and a privilege. I assume that it means that I'll one day become like a designated homegrown player, and then I'll make a bunch of money or something like that.
You keep telling yourself that.
Okay. Yeah.
But you did do great work in our academy, great work at our USL affiliate, and now here you are on the big team.
On the big team. On the big team to do my third MLS prediction show, I believe.
It is, right?
Yeah.
So if you've never heard us do a very specific prediction show, we're going to go through all the Eastern Conference teams. We're going to make a very specific prediction for what's going to happen with that team in 2017, and it's almost guaranteed to be 100% accurate. Is that right, Taylor?
No, it's not.
Because you went back and looked at our 2016 predictions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I haven't, and I'm almost scared to hear. Give me the edited highlights.
So it's always tough. Even when we do like our Premier League predictions, it's always difficult. With MLS, it's especially difficult because you can have things that seem so obvious.
Yeah.
I know we're going to do Western Conference ones. I just have the Eastern Conference predictions in front of me now.
Yeah.
But, like, I remember
Western Conference later in the week.
Right. We both thought like Colorado were going to be atrocious last season. Everybody did. That was the consensus going in, and then they made a deep run. So it's tough to really know for sure. That said,
all right,
we had some bad ones. We had some frustrating ones. I said that Chicago would concede fewer goals than they did the season before.
2015?
58, which was joint worst.
Yep.
They conceded 58. Similarly, you said Didier Drogba will be effective but play fewer than half of Montreal's regular season games.
Yeah.
He played 22.
Oh,
started 18. Yeah.
I want a point for that.
What?
I want a point.
Why is that?
Because it's close. Right?
34, he started 22. Not quite.
Oh,
the other one's worth noting. I said that a drunken DC United fan would proclaim that Luciano Acosta is the new Marco Echeverri. I DM'd Ben Bromley today on Twitter to ask.
He said, do you want to go for a drink?
He said there's a 90% chance that happened last season. He said, you mean only one player saying that or only one person saying that? Yeah, that definitely happened. So I'll take 90% of a point for that.
All right.
Some other kind of bad ones. You said Kwadwo Poku of NYCFC. This is an exact quote. I wrote it down. He is going to score an MLS goal of the week, and I'm going to track that one throughout the season.
Oh, wrong on both counts?
Wrong in the sense that he was also sold by NYCFC in June for $700,000. So
not so good?
Not so good there.
All right. Do you have a bad one? It can't be all me that got it wrong.
I mean, I just had a lot of, like I said, CJ Sapong would score 10 or more goals. He got 7. It was a lot of specific ones that didn't quite come through.
Not so bad.
No, but you did get one. You said Josie Altidore would have basically his best every year. He would score more goals than ever. 13 in 2015, 16 in 2016.
Yeah.
16 regular season, I think it was.
All right.
But Mr. Grove, we have to talk about this one. Your guarantee for Orlando City last season was that Breck Shea would be the best left back in the entire league.
I was really optimistic thinking he's going to play there all season for Orlando and become the U.S. men's national team left back.
Correct.
I'm pretty sure that didn't happen.
Because I pressed you on what does that mean to be the best left back. You said he would get a call up and start playing for the U.S. men's national team at left back. We were also both super, super amped up about Antonio Nocerino, a player whom it sounds like most Orlando fans are ready to see the back of.
Yep.
So maybe not great.
Okay.
Maybe not great when it came to Orlando.
So there's the giant pinch of salt before we do our MLS 2017 predictions. So we can't guarantee they'll be right. We can guarantee that we have put a lot of work into researching these teams, watching footage, figuring out what we think about each team going into 2017. It'll be as honest a preview as you can find anywhere else, if not as accurate a preview.
Well, no, but I think that's the key part, at least for me, because last season I was trying to kind of go off. I wasn't as confident going to MLS as I am this year, I would say. And so I was a little bit more like I should listen what the experts say. I should listen to a bunch of different stuff, get a consensus that should inform my view. And then as I said, you have outliers like Colorado. You have teams that suddenly make this jump. DC were very good last season. I was kind of down on them. So with that in mind, I've kind of just gone with like, yeah, whatever, sure. This seems like it could happen. I'm not listening to too much conventional wisdom, and that could definitely blow up in my face.
So are you ready to blow things up in our face? All right. We've gone alphabetical, team by team. We're taking a team each. I've got the first team, I believe.
Yep.
Atlanta United.
There we are.
All right, so the way we're going to do it is give a quick overview, give our specific prediction, and then maybe get into some more details. I'll take any questions you have for me, Taylor. Okay, first up, Atlanta United. I know everyone's like waiting to see what happens. I think Atlanta United have looked at how MLS works and what's been successful, and they have basically done everything right, more or less, right? They've done everything right. And I'll get into the details of what they've done right. but I think they still won't make the playoffs.
Okay, I'm fascinated by this. So is that your prediction, that Atlanta United will not make the playoffs?
No, that's my big overview. It's kind of my prediction. I'll be held to that if you want, and I'll take the point for it if I can.
Continue.
My actual prediction is, because they have signed so many young South American players, right? You've got Josef Martinez is the big name that I've been watching. He scored 4 goals in 3 preseason games. Yamil Assad scored that amazing goal that everyone was talking about. You've got Almiron and Viaba. If Ken Wynne-Jones doesn't start, you can have like a front 4 of South American talent. I think Atlanta United will lead the league in Spanish language goals.
Okay. Is this another one that you're willing to monitor throughout the season?
I will. I'll be willing to do the homework in 2018 if that helps.
All right.
If you text me like February 2018 and be like, "Hey, remember you did this? I'm doing the show. It's your job to go check into this." I'll do it for you.
I also know me, and I know my innate competitiveness, and I would probably also still do the research.
You want to double check?
You said they scored 17, but they actually scored 14. I'm not counting in all competitions, Daryl Grove. All right, but let's talk about this because. Okay. As you said, I agree. Everything that we've heard has been about how Atlanta have basically done everything right.
Yes.
They've signed a very good coach. They've gotten good young players in. They've signed some veteran players to kind of stabilize.
And the key is it's veteran MLS players and young South American attacking talent like Paraguay, Argentina. Josef Martinez is from Venezuela. It's not like put all your money into Denilson.
So then,
like FC Dallas did that
right, because that can absolutely burn you if you go too high on a designated player. You
set high expectations and then you get low performance and you spend all your money on one player.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not getting rid of that player very easily. But here's my question then. So then why aren't they making the playoffs? What's going to go wrong?
I think it's because, honestly, I know this is kind of a cliche. One, it's because they're an expansion team, and there is no like past to build on. You can't be like, Michael Parkhurst was really good in defense last season. Let's build around him, and like, this worked last season, this didn't. Like, it's all the I want to say it's the unknown unknowns. Like, there are things that I have to figure out as they go. Second is that the Eastern Conference is crazy competitive. Like, most of the teams we're previewing here have a good shout at making the playoffs, but ultimately only 6 out of 11 will make the playoffs, which is more than half, right? So you would think it's kind of easy, but that still means 5 out of 11 are not making it. Okay. The final thing, I don't want to upset Atlanta United fans because I really think they'll have a good...
Oh, don't worry. I'm about to make them happy, so it's fine.
I think they'll have a good, positive, exciting season. And part of saying they'll lead the league in Spanish language goal scorers is that they will score a lot of goals. But one of the problems is, for example, they will start the season in Dodd Stadium and halfway through they'll move to their new Mercedes-Benz Stadium, which looks beautiful. I remember talking about it way back, right? Yep. It's a beautiful, beautiful stadium. But having 2 different stadiums and they're both new to the team in one season, not helpful. Right? You might be like, someone might be finding their groove. Like, Viaba might be finding his groove on that right wing in Dodd Stadium, and suddenly he's got to do it at Mercedes-Benz, and maybe it's a little wider or a little longer. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, it is. But I still feel like that's what the conventional wisdom is. It basically, I just keep hearing people say like, they're an expansion team. There's no chance. They're not making the playoffs. Yeah. And I have definitely been arbitrarily optimistic about teams in the past. I would say Toronto when they signed Jermaine Defoe. I was like, well, that's all they needed. Yeah. Now they're good to go.
He's going to high-five Drake and score 25 goals.
Yeah, exactly. When DC United got Charlie Davies back, I thought the same thing. I was like, they've added this crazy good piece. And you're right that like one player does not a team make. MLS has proven that time and time again. But it just seems like everybody is afraid to say an expansion team is going to make it.
That's part of it.
And so they don't want to say that. Yeah. I think they're going to make the playoffs.
Okay.
I do. Because I think the examples I would go to are an expansion outside of Major League Soccer. Now, there may be some expansion teams that have done very well from the outset. I don't know them off the top of my head.
Chicago Fire won MLS Cup.
That would be one.
In 97 or 98. And I think Seattle Sounders made it in there.
Wouldn't have been 97, so it would have been 98, yeah.
They made it in 2009. They made the playoffs. RSL made the playoffs in, I think, 2005. But that's pretty much it, I think.
Okay.
I think it's really tough outside of that.
That's a decent list in terms of expansion. I would also say the other ones that come to mind for me outside of Major League Soccer were the Carolina Panthers and Jacksonville Jaguars. I believe they both...
They never made the MLS playoffs.
No, but they did join the league at the same time and went very deep into the playoffs in their inaugural seasons, as I recall. Again, I haven't looked that one up. Could be wrong. But it seems like those 2 teams were based on kind of innovative coaches, really good like leadership in terms of their quarterbacks, and kind of figuring it out as they went. It seems like Atlanta are positioned to do all of those things. It just keeps sounding to me like people kind of, I know this is a bit conspiratorial and I'm okay with it. It feels a little bit like people don't want Atlanta to be good right away.
Why is that?
Conventional MLS minds don't want them to be good because there's this idea that it's this, MLS is this whole different animal and you can't be Ruud Gullit and come in. It's just not going to work. You've got to know how it is. You've got to know the ins and outs and nuts and bolts. You've got to be there for 10 years before you can make something happen.
I will say there hasn't been like, Tata Martino says, why can't we just sign another 10 players?
Right.
And someone had to tell him, no, there's the salary cap.
Yeah.
There's been none of that, right?
No.
It seems like Tata Martino has either done his homework or he's copied notes from Carlos Bocanegra. One or the other.
Well, but that's what I mean. And so I think that there is this idea of like, no, you have to do it this way. And you're an expansion team, you're not going to be able to do it that way. And it's just like, well, no, I don't know if that's necessarily true.
But that's what I'm saying is I think they've learned the lessons of everybody past, right? They've got the perfect mix of young South American attackers, and they're willing to pay them big money. Like, I don't know what Joseph Martinez is being paid. It's not $7 million a year, but he's a DP, right? But he's not crazy money DP. They've got some experience on the roster. They've got MLS experience in terms of Lloyd, Parkhurst, Jeff Laurentowicz, right? You've got these guys who have been around MLS. And then you've got sort of the experience of Kenwyne Jones. Do you remember when they first announced the Kenwyne Jones signing? And we were like, or at least I was like, it's crazy to spend all that money and get a DP that you don't even know how the team's going to be built. Yeah. Turns out he wasn't a DP. He's just there as like a piece on the roster, I think with some targeted allocation money.
Right.
It looks like from pre-season, Kenwyne Jones might not even start. It seems Joseph Martinez will be the starting striker. So suddenly they're crazy deep, they're experienced, they've got the designated players from South America, which is what you all want, and they've got this undercurrent of young attacking talent, which some teams like FC Dallas had to build that up, right? Suddenly, Atlanta have all these academy products in their first year. You got Chris Goslin and Andrew Carlton primed to possibly play this season.
So is your point then that I'm correct that they are going to make the playoffs? Because again, you've gone back to like, here's why they're amazing.
What I'm saying is they've done everything right? They've done everything right, but it's still an expansion team that doesn't have experience playing together, like it doesn't have like a season of experience to build on, and is going to change stadiums halfway through, and they'll do really well, but they won't make the playoffs.
I would say the only reason that I could see there being problems are little elements like the stadium that you mentioned. Yeah. And, for example, you've got Brad Guzan, who is that now official? I still don't really know what
I think he's coming in June, but that's another thing where they're going to switch goalkeepers in June.
So you're having players come in mid-season. Sometimes that can be good and planned for, as we'll get to way later on in the show with one of my teams. But there is that little element of like, we've got him coming in. This is coming at a different time. We're moving here. So there could just be that little like kind of off-field becoming on-field distractions, but I still think that they do better than most people are predicting.
Okay, that's fair. And I agree with you that some people are just scared to predict that they'll do well. And maybe some people don't want them to do well because it proves that New England Revolution could have been doing well all along.
That's what I'm saying.
If the team had the management team had put the time and effort into doing it.
That's what I really do think is that some people kind of look at this expansion team that's coming in. They're very exciting. They've sold a bunch of tickets. They've got exciting players. They seem like they've got a plan. And be like, well, but. No, like you've got to do it this way. This is how it needs to be because otherwise what we're doing doesn't really make any sense.
Yeah, struggle for 3 years, then make the playoffs.
Exactly.
Oh, sorry. Just to be a completist, the final guy I didn't mention, Carlos Carmona, Chilean defensive midfielder. They also brought a South American defensive midfielder with experience. I think that's another key of like another sign that they've been like, we know what works in this league.
I can't believe you made this entire like prediction without mentioning Andrew Carlton yet.
I mentioned the young up-and-coming players. Okay. Actually, the more I look at it, did you see the Andrew Carlton highlight from a couple of days ago? Where
That's why I'm surprised you didn't mention him right away.
Brings it down, spins on the line, and keeps it in play.
Yep.
Honestly, the more I look at this team, they've got so much attacking talent, and Andrew Carlton's going to have U17 World Cup qualifying and hopefully U17 World Cup. I don't think he sees much Atlanta United action, if only because of the U17s, right? So I think it's worth being excited about him, but don't expect him to be much of a regular in the Atlanta team this season.
Yeah, okay, that makes sense. The other thing I'll say before I move on to Chicago, and it kind of ties in, part of the reason why I would say it might be difficult for them to make the playoffs is because I think it's going to be really difficult to make the playoffs. I think everyone is better. I think the East is a very good conference. Maybe it was a little bit weaker last season. So I think, for one team to make it, teams have to fall out, obviously. And, for example, Columbus didn't make it last season. I think they could be good this season. So it's going to be tough to make the playoffs regardless, and that pertains to the Chicago Fire, who I have next.
Can I just give my recap on my predictions then, because I rambled on so much? It's that Atlanta would have they would lead the league in Spanish language goal scorers, but they won't make the playoffs.
All right.
I combined it into one.
And for those wondering, Daryl has already written all over his hand. Okay, on to Chicago. Basically, Chicago last season, I did their prediction last season. I was very excited about them because they had made so many moves. Yeah. Now, maybe this connects to your Atlanta point, which is that I think maybe they made too many moves. They had too much roster fluctuation. They had a new coach. And once again, they were the worst team in the league last season. Conceded lots of goals, didn't score that many. Right. But they seem to have addressed some issues because the defense was maturing as the season went on. Sean Johnson was not doing what they needed him to be doing. He was shipped out. So it seems like they're kind of trying to identify their weaknesses. And with that comes defensive midfield, the midfield spot, right? Because linking defense to attack was a big problem last season.
Yep.
What they've done, signed Dax McCarty.
Yes.
That's a big thing. And the biggest one, I would say, is signing Juninho. We loved Juninho when he played for LA Galaxy, when he was in there with Sarvas. That was like such a good, potent midfield.
Yeah.
I mean, I would say you take Juninho, you add Dax McCarty, who's an incredibly good defensive midfielder, and a veteran presence in the league. Suddenly you've got a strong kind of core central midfield.
That's a hard-working, selfless, combative midfield that can also play a bit of soccer.
Yeah. And then it complements...
And there's no Bastian Schweinsteiger. Then you haven't got like an overpaid, overaged foreigner coming in. Right?
This is true, yeah. So, I mean, he was linked there. I forget who else was linked with that club. I think Chicharito continues to be, although LA, one of the two LAs, seems far more likely, yeah. But then the other problem last season was converting the few chances they did get into goals. So you had David Akam, who I believe was their top scorer, couldn't really do much offensively because he had no one there to put the ball home. Now they do in the form of Nemanja Nikolic, who was signed this offseason. And I'm saying that he will not be the new Hamdi Salihi, in that I'm going to say he will score 10 or more goals this season, Nikolic.
Where's Nikolic come from?
He has come, so I believe he is Hungarian. He was playing in the Polish... whatever their top flight is.
Elektrostrasse.
Sure. He was playing for Liga Warsaw. And here's the telling statistic.
He's a Pazdan teammate?
He's a Pazdan teammate.
He brings some of that Pazdan magic with him.
Mm-hmm. Over the past 5.5 seasons, Nikolic, this is from Matt Doyle, I believe, Nikolic has scored 112 goals in just 12,000 league minutes. That's 0.85 goals per 90 minutes.
That's quite good.
So he's basically coming close to a goal a game.
Yeah.
So he is a goal scorer. I looked at a couple different videos of him, but I was a little concerned if it was just going to be like a bunch of tap-ins and he was that kind of poacher. Mm-hmm. And he can kind of do everything. He can win balls in the air, he can shoot from distance, he can finish at close range in tight spots. It seems like he's going to be able to get on the end of some crosses that were there last season that no one was converting. He will be the one to convert them. So now it seems like you've got a cohesive defense, a cohesive midfield, and a solid attack.
Will Dax McCarty be happy? Because I know he seemed very not thrilled about the way that he was moved on from New York Red Bulls. Basically against his will, right? He was happy living in New York. He was captain. Everything was good.
Just got married.
Back in the U.S. national team. Just got married. And then suddenly they're like, oh, you're moving to Chicago.
Yeah.
I mean, there are definitely worse cities. I love Chicago.
Oh, yeah. But to be sold... And it does seem like the thing that tends to happen to him, because he started in, Dallas, I believe? Then he went to D.C., and then it was like, okay, now I'm settled, now I'm good. Yep. Oh, you guys want Di Rosario? Okay, great, now I'm gone. I mean, and he had, established himself in the locker room in D.C., obviously did the same thing in New York, I believe was their captain, no longer.
Is he too nice? Does he just need to find a way of saying no to front?
That might be. Maybe that's the issue. For a hard-nosed defensive midfielder, maybe he's just too nice.
All right, so remind me again, what was your specific prediction for Chicago?
That Nemanja Nikolic is not the new Hamdi Salihi, that he will score 10 or more goals this season.
Because Salihi scored fewer than 10. Mm-hmm. Oh, okay. Sorry, DC United fans.
I think in his entire career with DC, he scored fewer than 10.
Let's not talk about it anymore. All right, up next, I have Columbus Crew. Mm-hmm. So Columbus Crew, famously 2015 MLS Cup finalists. We all thought they would go at it again 2016. It absolutely did not happen. Instead, there was that big bust-up with Higuain and Kai Kamara. Kai Kamara was traded. Mm-hmm. Things kind of picked up towards the end of the season with Ola Kamara, the replacement, Sierra Leone Danish player, Danish international, I believe, coming in and scoring some goals. Here's my prediction, my straight-up prediction for 2017. Columbus fans will be happy with this. Ola Kamara will outscore Kai Kamara in 2017.
That might not be that much of a statement.
Why is that?
Sure. Because I don't know how much Kai Kamara is going to figure for the New England Revolution. I also don't know how many goals New England are going to be scoring this season. But sure, go ahead. So why do you think that? So it sounds like you're saying Columbus going to be back to kind of their goal-scoring ways. Yeah. He's going to be central to that. But why do you feel that way?
Well, honestly, I feel like a lot of that Kai Kamara exit was Kai Kamara's fault. So this is just karma.
Okay.
Karma Kamara. Uh-huh. So that's my take on Columbus Crew. Right. I'm looking at their roster now. Michael Parkhurst gone. Mm-hmm. They're sort of rebuilding the defense. Do you know who's come in to replace him?
Jonathan Mensah.
Mm-hmm. Do you know how old Jonathan Mensah is?
I'm going to assume I think he's way older than he is. I'm going to say 30.
So Jonathan Mensah is 26.
That is not true.
John Mensah is mid-30s.
Ah, that's right. I always do this.
Yes,
that's right.
The reason I sort of deliberately tricked you into this is everybody always does this, right? So people will. I don't think any opponents will think this, but a lot of fans might think, oh, they've signed that old Ghanaian defender. They have not. They've signed a 26-year-old Ghanaian defender who has already played in 2 World Cups and is going to be kind of dominant in the air. So my other prediction, dominant everywhere, is what I've heard about him. He just wins balls, right?
Yep.
So one of my other predictions, Jonathan Mensah, designated player centre-back, will be a Defender of the Year finalist in Major League Soccer.
Okay, I can get down on that. I especially enjoy that one because, again, there's a conventional wisdom thing. For example, I know Alexi Lalas, I haven't heard him talk about Jonathan Mensah, excuse me. But he has
Jonathan on his back just to absolutely... that's what he wears on his back to avoid all
confusion.
confusion.
Talking about Lalas, so I was very confused. But he says, you spend your money on attacking play. That's where your DP should be. I've heard a lot of people say that. It's like, why are Columbus spending DP money on a center back? It's like, yeah, what crazy club that just won like the MLS Cup 2 years ago would do that? Because Liam Ridgewell was Portland's one of their DPs, and it's what you do. I think Lucas Milano, also a DP, who can get back and work on defense. So to have those kind of the money spent where you need it to be, it makes sense, and it seems like Columbus have done some smart buying there.
Oh, yeah. Okay, other moves for Columbus. Zach Steffen. Do you remember Zach Steffen from the U20 World Cup? Zach Steffen, I think, will be the starting keeper in 2017. I don't know how that's going to go, but I'm kind of excited just because he looks so good when he's playing for the U20s. Will Trapp, in the absence of Michael Parkhurst, Will Trapp is going to be captain of the Columbus Crew in 2017.
Right.
I don't want to make a prediction about this because I don't think it's something that's worth joking around about, but Will Trapp had a concussion in 2015. He had a sort of, not quite as bad, but he had a concussion in 2016 that kept him out for a month. This is just a thing I want to happen. I want Will Trapp to get through the whole season, no concussion, so it's not an issue for him, and I want the Will Trapp bandwagon to be rolling strong.
Okay. So do you think, and you're predicting it will be then, or is that just what you
I'm just
want?
saying I'm hoping.
Okay.
I'm hoping, yeah.
So then the negative stuff I've heard about Columbus, you've got Higuain, who is a year older.
Yeah.
Maybe we're looking to sign somebody who could augment his minutes, maybe replace him at some point. That doesn't seem to have happened. You've got a new defense. You've got a young goalkeeper. So there are some moments of instability there.
Yeah.
And that's what I mean when I say that the East is really difficult, because I want to say Columbus, so it's Columbus, Berhalter knows what he's doing, they're going to be right back into playoffs, but everybody else is stronger. There are those little tiny vulnerabilities, so you can never say with too much confidence.
So the thing I've been reading is that Columbus and Berhalter will try the sort of the same style they've been trying the last couple of years, which is like really push the fullbacks up. Right? Harrison Affle, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly ever. Affle? It will be bombing down the wing. You have your fullbacks push really far forward, and that's how Columbus are going to go. And if it doesn't work this year, then there may be a sort of rip it up, rebuild the whole thing. But this is like the last roll of the dice for the Greg Berhalter style with this Columbus Crew team.
I'm trying to find a portmanteau of Ghana and Columbus in much way that we had like Full America and what I forget what the other marijuana for Tijuana. I'm trying to think what it would be, and I can't figure it out. But there's like 4 Ghanaians on Columbus' books
there
now.
The guys I haven't even named. I think Abu was a central defensive midfielder that they brought in as well. And a couple of guys they drafted.
Is that Muhammad Abu?
I think
so.
Yeah.
I've read some things. He sounds good. Will Trapp might have some competition, as might Tony Chani.
Or a partner. I think Tony Chani is the one in trouble based on what I've seen in pre-season.
Well, let's move on to a team that we hope isn't in trouble because they're near and dear to my heart, and I think yours too. It's DC United.
Yes, we're going to the opener.
Yep,
we have tickets.
Yeah. So DC, it was funny. I did not get my prediction point for DC last season, but I did predict that using a 4-4-2 empty bucket the way they tended to, they were going to be boring and it might not work as well because that kind of like caught lightning in a bottle in that one moment. And sure enough, it did not work for them, but once they switched to the 4-3-3, 4-1-4-1 kind of hybrid that they utilized near the end of the season, that's when they found form. That is what they are sticking with, essentially, this coming season. So with that in mind, the man up top who played really well at the end of the season was Patrick Mullins, had a very good close of the season. I think that will continue, and my prediction is that he will be in the 2018 January U.S. men's national team camp.
That sounds so far in the future.
It does.
But yes, that's the next January camp, right?
Yeah. But young, exciting goal scorer, playing for DC United where he is going to get a lot of service, and they've kind of reinforced everywhere that they need to reinforce in order to get him, to continue to get him service and opportunities. All right, yes, I'm on board with that prediction. Okay. But enough messing around. Tell me about Ian Harkes. I'm so excited about Ian Harkes. Because the reason... Why? I want to know why. Because I feel like everyone is excited and they've seen that one GIF. Yes. That's it. Okay, so... several reasons. Okay, first is just that it's because it's John Harkes' son, and John Harkes is kind of this DC legend. And I think I saw a Will Parchman thing where he said, "Never before have I been able to tell someone's like parentage just by watching them play. Like you wouldn't even have to tell me this is John Harkes' son. The way he passes, I can tell this is John Harkes' son." And the other thing is that he's been talked up as this guy who is very, very capable of going straight from college
to like professional soccer, MLS, and just fitting straight in. And I'm excited to see that happen.
Well, I know many people, just as you are, very excited about Ian Harkes, but I think you're going to need to delay that a little bit, because I think if and when he does play, it's not going to be... He'll get minutes here and there, but I don't think he's going to be a consistent starter right out the gate.
I thought he'd be at least in contention every game. Like, I understand he's not going to play every single game of the season, but I thought he'd be in that midfield like at least every other game.
I mean, he may well be, especially like near the middle of the season, even maybe near the beginning. But I think what Ben Olsen has proven time and time again is that he values stability.
Yeah.
They've basically returned their best, 14, 15, 16 players from last season. They've kind of kept everyone the same. If you look at the team that they were playing heading into the playoffs, it's very similar to what they're probably going to play this season. And so with that comes kind of the same midfield, where you've got Sarvas as a defensive midfielder. You've got Acosta, who's now there permanent. They signed him this...
He's the attacking midfielder, right?
Yeah. So then that leaves that one other spot, and that could be Jeffries. It could be like 8 other players that they tried last season, or that could be Harkes. And that's probably where he'll be. Maybe some D-mid. I think they looked at him in D-mid in preseason, but it seems more likely now that he'll be that number 8.
Okay.
So... just not sure when that will be, but it was also strange to me.
This Saturday.
It was also strange to me to go back and read about him, knowing that there was that speculation that maybe he wouldn't sign for DC because he'd go play for his dad at Cincinnati. Wouldn't have been the best decision, it turns out, since John Harkes no longer there.
No longer at Cincinnati. What about Steve Birnbaum? He stayed, right? So he's going to dominate MLS attackers all year?
Yeah, I mean, if you look at what that team did, they re-signed Acosta for a lot of money, but that shows you how they valued him, and they kept hold of Steve Birnbaum despite considerable interest from Europe. So he's definitely going to be the kind of anchor in that back. It seems like they're going to have Sean Franklin alongside of him, Bobby Boswell playing occasionally, Chris Durkin maybe playing occasionally.
Chris Durkin, yes.
There we are.
I did see Ben Olsen said he will play a few games with Richmond this year.
Oh, okay, there we go.
You'll see Chris Durkin in U17 World Cup and maybe in Richmond and maybe for DC.
But let me tell you who their outside fullbacks are going to be then. Because Sean Franklin is coming inside, that leaves Taylor Kemp on one side, who we know, very attacking left back.
Yeah.
Right back.
January camp, right?
Nick De Leon. So you're going to have 2.
That was a move last year, right?
It was a move. So I think last season he had moved from like center mid to right mid, and it was like now he's found his position. This season he's moved from right mid to right back to start the season.
Is he the Dax McCarty of positions?
Yeah, but apparently he's very nice.
He needs to tell them, no, this is what I want to do.
Yeah. So, I mean, again, all that points to the stability. The questions you have is basically, it's DC. Are they going to be able to kind of string everything together consistently?
Yep.
Is Bill Hamid going to stay healthy? He's back, but who knows? I mean, he could be the best keeper in the league. He could be out for months. We just don't know.
Okay.
But we do know that Mullins going to score those goals, going to get his USMNT call up.
So your prediction was Patrick Mullins will be in the January 2018 camp. So by the time we do our look back next time, we'll know for sure.
We will know for sure.
Oh, it's going to be the first thing I look for in 2018.
I feel like this could go south for me.
Before we move on, we have a sponsor today, Taylor. Today's sponsor is...
Fucci.
I was going to do a dramatic pause, but okay, Fucci.
I thought you were pausing for me to do the dramatic reading of the advertisement. Yes, Fucci, back with us, combining soccer and squash using a specially engineered rebounder to create a unique playing experience.
So we've played Fucci many, many times over the last year and a half. We have rebounded against each other. Sometimes you win, sometimes I win. I want to say it's roughly even over the span of time.
I think you're on a winning streak. I feel like you've won the last few.
That's because I've been dodging you recently as well to make sure that record can't be broken. Winter was my excuse.
Yeah.
We are looking for other people who have played Fucci. We know a lot of our listeners have bought Fucci nets and played soccer versus squash Fucci. We are looking for your stories. How do you play Fucci? Because Taylor and I, we mix it up a bit, right? We do the headers only game that we played. We did can you think of any more? We did the Christmas version.
We tried to do like flicks and tricks. That was a little bit difficult. We did the Christmas version where we were dressed up as Santas. We played with our team. Yeah, we've done a couple of different things.
That was harder than expected, playing dressed as Santa.
Yeah, a little bit. Especially because it was a very warm day, I think.
How does Santa get so much done? If you have a sort of an adaptation of Fucci that you have done, please email us, contact@totalsoccershow.com. Put Fucci, Futchi, in the subject line. Let us know what you do with your Fucci net, and we will share it with everybody else here on the Total Soccer Show. Today, we want to talk about the rebounding aspect of Fucci. We're going to go for who will have the biggest bounce back in Major League Soccer in 2017 in the Eastern Conference, right? So, Taylor, who do you think will have the biggest bounce back 2017?
Vitor Gomez Pereira Jr., a.k.a. Juninho. So, Juninho, we knew from that LA Galaxy team, that title-winning team. I think he won 3 MLS Cups. Very strong midfielder. He plays 1 season for Tijuana last year. Does make 20 appearances for them, but it doesn't seem like it went that well. He's been sent on loan back to Chicago, And as I said, I do think that Chicago midfield is much stronger. They've got exciting attacking talent in there, and I think that he is poised to have a very good season. And remind everyone that he is only 28 years old and still very capable of splitting defenses left and right.
All right, so he was partnered with Savas, right, in that sort of wonderful LA midfield. Dax could be the new Savas, his new buddy.
I would say so.
They go everywhere. Dax just has to learn Brazilian real fast.
Yeah,
Portuguese. Yeah. My rebound player of the year had the biggest bounce back in 2017. Michael Bradley. And I'm talking reputation-wise. I think by the end of this year, the people who are not fond of Michael Bradley will have changed their minds. Not just based on MLS performance, also based on US men's national team performance. If he sort of leads us to a not defeat at the Azteca and World Cup qualifying picks up, I don't know if he'll play in the Gold Cup, but by the end of the year, people will be back on side with Michael Bradley, US men's national team captain.
I like the onside pun there. Well done. And if people want to take advantage of our partnership with Fucci, they can do so by purchasing a Fucci rebounder and using the TSS promo code,
which is the lowest price you can get a Fucci for. We have negotiated hard to make sure that we have the best deal possible. If you go to playfucci.com, spelled PLAYFUTCHI.com. When you check out, you enter the promo code TSS2017, TSS2017. You will get $20.17 off of your Fucci rebounder. It is the best deal out there.
All right, so that's TSS2017. Put it in there, get you a Fucci.
And email us, contact@totalsoccershow.com. Let us know how you play Fucci. What sort of adaptations have you put on the game? All right, my next team is Montreal Impact. There's a big alphabetical gap there in the Eastern Conference.
It always seems like we've missed somebody. Every time I was listening to previews, wait, no, hold on. Something's wrong here.
So the big news, Didier Drogba is gone, right? But Ignacio Piatti is staying. And Ignacio Piatti is the best non-Giovinco type player in Major League Soccer. I watched highlights of him again to prepare for the show, and I just always forget how great Piatti is for Montreal Impact. So they've basically, apart from Drogba, they've sort of kept the core of that team that made it to, I believe, the MLS Eastern Conference final. Yeah, talking about to me now, they got murdered by Toronto FC corner kicks.
It was the craziness. Yeah, that was the crazy conference final.
But great entertainment, right? And do you remember in those conference finals, one of the standout players in that game was, or was it the previous game? But in the playoffs anyway, was Ambrose Ayongo, the Cameroonian left-back. There was definitely a goal where he tore from left-back all the way down the field. I don't think he scored it, but he definitely made it by beating several players along the way.
I think he scored it.
Did he?
He took it all the way.
Since then, he has gone to the African Cup of Nations and won the Africa Cup of Nations. He is only 25.
Did he play in that tournament?
He played every single minute of that tournament, Tanner Rockwell. I looked it up. So here's my prediction. Ambrose Ayongo, actually my prediction was going to be that he'll make the MLS Best 11, but I look back and not since 2004 has the MLS Best 11 had a back four. They've always sacrificed fullbacks so they could get five midfielders in there.
As you do.
Yeah, so instead I'm going to say Ambrose Ayongo will be selected for the MLS All-Star game, which has never happened in his career. I think he'll be the standout left back. I've just realised I might be repeating my Brett Shea mistake, but this is based on more solid ground, right? Yeah. Ambrose Ayongo will make the MLS All-Star game. He will be selected.
All right.
Possibly against Real Madrid. Have you seen those rumours?
I have not. They haven't announced it yet.
No, it's just rumours and rumours, but it's been rumoured it was Barcelona and it's been rumoured it was Real Madrid, so I think it might be one or the other.
Interesting. All right, that'll work. It was Arsenal last year. I remember that because I predicted that Juan Agudelo would make the All-Star game. Did not happen. Did have a good season, though.
All right, other notes for Montreal Impact. They will remain, I think, the best counter-attacking team in the league. Remember how they had that three-man midfield? But the age of that three-man midfield this year, Bernier is 38, Donadel is 34, and Benedello is 31. So it's not a young midfield.
It's okay, because MLS isn't known for being like a grind and a very physical thing. Yeah, that'll be fine.
The good news is, it's kind of bad news that FC Montreal, their USL team, has been just raised. It's gone. It no longer exists. I think Ottawa Fury are their new USL affiliate.
I believe they salted the ground upon which that facility was built too. Yeah.
But that makes it sound as if it was a failure. It kind of wasn't. I think it was. My understanding is FC Montreal, because Montreal Impact just basically sent all their academy and teenagers there to play, it wasn't what USL wanted, right? They don't want their USL teams to be that, but that doesn't mean it was a failure, because there are many, many players who have been sort of elevated up from that team to Montreal Impact, chief of which is Balou Jean-Yves Tabla. You saw him last year, right?
Well, I saw him last year, and I spent about 10 minutes memorizing his name when we did the commentary for the Richmond Kickers, because you're not going to believe this, but the FC Montreal players difficult to pronounce.
Yes, they are. Tabla, only 17, scored the winner in that game. He scored, I think, 3 or 4 other times in the USL 2016 season. Just checking I got the right year. Tabla, I think, wasn't even allowed to be selected for Canada U20s for the CONCACAF Championship because Montreal wanted to hold on to him. I think he will at least get some minutes for the Montreal Impact this year, and he will look incredible. My guess is, so it's Piatti plays on the left of a front three, right, with Mancuso is now the centre forward, now Drogba's gone, and Dominic Adoro provides the pace on the right. He's like the thing to be scared of to distract you from Piatti, and then you're scared about him, and then Piatti appears. Piatti's got to be rested sometimes, right? So we might just see Tabla just appear for 20 minutes or maybe start a couple of games on the left for Montreal Impact.
All right.
Look out for him.
All right. Any other Montreal points?
My one concern from Montreal perspective, right? Ayongo's going to be brilliant. That's going to be great. He's going to make the MLS All-Star game. My one concern is that they've only really made 2, even 1.5 additions, whereas I think everybody else has made big steps forward, right? So if you think of additions Montreal, Andres Romero is back from an ACL injury. He'll add something to the attack. And they're going to have Adrien Aragu joining from Bologna, maybe mid-season. But really, when you weigh that against losing whatever impact Drogba has, which I know waned throughout the year, but it's still Didier Drogba and people are scared of him when he comes on, you can't look at Montreal and say they've made this massive leap forward. So the best you can hope for is more of the same, but hopefully it goes a bit better.
Yeah, but I think that, I mean, when you've got a team that like just barely missed out on going to MLS Cup final, like and a big part of that, lest we forget, like in the playoffs, Drogba was a distraction. Like it was, he's not training and he wants to leave, and is he actually hurt or is he pretending to be hurt? Like he kind of became a negative at times, and he wasn't that kind of player that we remembered from the playoffs of the years past. So maybe you could make the argument, like as opposed to Atlanta United, that it's a Montreal team that know what they need, that kind of have gelled as a unit. They've brought in like a couple kind of auxiliary players to fill out, but overall they're still in good position. But
maybe if they'd replaced Drogba with like Lewandowski, you'd definitely be like, this team is going far.
I mean, yeah, I think so. that's fair to say.
That's how you win an argument. You just say Lewandowski.
Oh, sure. Okay. In that case, the New England Revolution, renamed the New England Lewandowskis. They finished the season in a 4-4-2 diamond under Jay Heaps. It seems like that's what they're going to continue to do. And I don't know how well this season is going to go for New England. Maybe this is because I was like super high on them last season, and that was maybe not the best idea. But I'm going to say my prediction is that a name you know will be traded or sold this season.
A name you know, like a New England name, yeah.
So Kai Kamara, Lee Nguyen, Juan Agudelo. I would say there's a decent chance that one of the three of them finds a new club.
So I haven't done the research that you've done, but I have seen a lot of people suggesting Lee Nguyen won't be a starter at the start of the season, which, like, just the bits I see of Lee Nguyen, I want him in the US national team. So something somewhere has gone wrong, right?
Yeah, I mean, basically he had a very bad season last year. He was kind of up and down, wasn't like so confident playing the way we've seen Lee Nguyen play in the past. This preseason, it seems like they've gone with that 4-4-2 diamond with Nguyen and Kamara up top, Agudelo playing as a number 10, which it seems like it should be reversed,
Agudelo
right?
At the tip of a diamond.
And Lee Nguyen as a forward, right? Or a support striker. So it seems like Jay Heaps is kind of really trying to figure stuff out and trying different things to make something work. And that points to kind of a lack of confidence in what they have at present.
It sounds like Jay Heaps plays chess by just moving the pieces all over the board until someone says, that's not a legal move. You can't do that.
Yeah. I mean, maybe. Because
bishops can't go in a straight line.
Well, they also seem to just sort of like, oh, I haven't moved my bishops in a while, so I'm going to, or like I haven't moved my pawns in a while, I'm going to move all my pawns at once. Because did you see the Matt Doyle thing about like the roster status of every single team?
Oh, yeah.
And he basically kept updating it. The New England won the first 4 entries, like, still haven't signed any center backs, still have no center backs, still have no center backs. Then they signed 4 center backs.
Oh, did they?
Like all at once. But they drafted 1, I think signed 3.
Okay.
And I mean, the names you maybe need to know, they signed Delamia, who's a Slovenian international, Angua, who's an Ivory Coast international. The biggest one, I think, for the future would be Josh Smith, who is Super Draft.
Oh, I was hoping the original John Mensah would be in there.
Sadly, no, although that would be great. But so, like, they are kind of filling those gaps a little bit. But I think what MLS becomes is sort of like the extent of the gap filling. And like you can, obviously, if you've identified we don't have any center backs, then signing any center backs can be good. But that's not signing MLS proven, MLS caliber center backs who will kind of perform rock steady every game.
So you're possibly saying quantity over quality.
Yes, right? Something like that. Yeah, exactly. But I just
it's better to sign Thiago Silva than 5 bad Brazilian centre backs.
Yes, but from everything I've heard, the bookmakers have Jay Heaps as the coach most likely to go first if a coach were to be fired this season.
We do that in America?
Apparently,
I didn't even know that was an MLS thing.
Nor did I, but apparently it is.
Oh, wow.
Yes.
Is that on the dark web?
Yes, exactly. Yeah, that's where I find all of my research. Yeah,
is it the deep web or the dark
web? It's the Lewandowski web. I'm just going to follow that. It's actually both. I listened to an interview with a guy. It's like dark, deep, and there's 2 more.
There's 2 more?
Yeah, it's even more terrifying. The darkest, deepest web. But so it all just points to a team that has a lot of pieces, but they don't quite know. I mean, Teal Bunbury is still at that club. They don't quite know what to do. Exactly. So I think that maybe that is going to be represented in their playing style, and the fact that all of a sudden they're going to have a bunch of attacking play, and they're going to need a defensive midfielder or another center back, and you're going to look at your options and say, maybe this front 2 isn't working. Maybe we'll just play Kai Kamara up top or Juan Agudelo up top by himself. But now we don't know what to do with Kai Kamara or Lee Win. Okay, one of them is going to go, and we'll trade them for a defender.
And I really like Swagadello as well. The glimpses we saw of him for the US national team is obviously someone who can contribute somewhere doing something, just needs to find the right spot. And if New England's going to be moving things all over the place, that he could be one to move.
And that's what, from what I understand, New England fans are kind of frustrated by, is it felt like he had found the right spot. He wasn't an all-star last season, Agudelo, but he did have a very good season. And so it's play him up top. That's where he was. That's where he was confident. And then they're going to play him as a number 10 where he, by all accounts, does not look confident.
I mean, he's got the foot skills, right? He's really good at getting out of tight spaces, so I can kind of see why Jay Heaps looked at him and thought, that could work.
Yeah, you can see that. But then it becomes he doesn't really know how to do it, and he doesn't have the instruction to do it. That's no good either.
What about Andrew Farrell? Any news on Andrew Farrell in your...
I mean, other than I think he was the only one of the New England players to make the MLS All-Star game last season.
Right.
I know because, again, I predicted Agudelo. I Googled for New England. That was what turned up. So he's still there. I mean, so they still have, as I said, talented pieces here and there. It's about finding them as a collective whole that can be a problem this season.
Okay. Anything else on New England before we move on somewhere else in the Northeast?
They might send Robert Lewandowski.
All right, I'm putting a moratorium on Lewandowski jokes.
Good.
Okay, NYCFC. Frank Lampard is gone. Frank Lampard's gone. It kind of ended well, right? He had that goal-scoring tear last season, so he leaves with a pat on the back. You were almost worth all that money. Good job, fella.
Good job.
Mix Diskerud is not getting such a great goodbye. Before we get to my specific prediction, can we talk about Mix Diskerud? Because he's only 26 still. He was at one time expected to be an integral part of this NYCFC team, a future integral part of the US men's national team. He wasn't even given a roster number or really involved in pre-season. At time of recording, he has not got a new club, but he did post on Instagram last night. Have you heard about this?
Yes, I heard about this.
So it was a photo of New York City at night, from the air.
See, I saw it audibly before you start talking about it because I've heard about it, but I haven't heard the writings yet, and I'm a little concerned.
So it's kind of like a poem or maybe some sort of sad ballad that he wrote, and it's got 6 verses, and it's all about him being told that he's not staying at New York City Football Club. And I'm just going to give you the first verse to give you a good flavour of it, right? Mix posted, "Somebody told me I'm not part of a plan. And if he was he'd run like the others ran. Because the budget is tight and binding contracts might be broken to improve 5 to 6 positions in exchange for only one man." That's the first verse of Mix's sad ballad.
So he's not big on rhyming scheme.
No.
Okay, cool.
He's not. But what I take from that is that he's been told, we can improve multiple positions.
Oh, you think? That's what you're taking away from thing?
If we don't pay you the money that we're paying you to not do anything helpful.
How many lit classes did you take to be able to analyze that expertly?
Just 1 bachelor's degree in English literature. This doesn't qualify as English literature.
I don't know.
It is a creative way of it's better than taking a photo of the exit sign or something.
Is it? I'm not sure it is.
Not. So here's the thing, right? I feel bad laughing because something's gone terribly wrong here, right? Mixed Diskerud in NYCFC was supposed to be a triumph.
Yeah.
And it looks like he's going to maybe go back to Norway, maybe sort of get his mojo going again there.
Yeah, do you remember? I cannot remember what his name was, so that's going to annoy me. But it was remember when Toronto had the slew of designated players that we didn't quite know, and then all of a sudden it was Michael Bradley, Josie Altidore, Sebastian Giovinco. Yeah. Somebody's probably making way. That's what Mix feels like, except the difference is that he's an American playing for the U.S. national team at the time. So we had this idea that, like, oh, he'll definitely be one of the big name DPs. And all of a sudden
he wasn't even a DP, but he was like well paid.
Yeah,
right?
You know what I mean? Like, he was going to be that big name player, and all of a sudden you have this talent coming in, especially at central midfield, and you sort of look at it and think, uh-oh, that's not good.
But here's the good news for NYCFC. Right. Obviously, that wasn't working out, right? And I look at this NYCFC roster, I see excellent additions all around. They are deeper and stronger and better. They're sort of like the Bionic Man this year. We can rebuild this team. To suit what Patrick Vieira wants to do. I mean, I could list you a bunch of players that they've signed, and maybe I will do later. But the absolute jewel in the crown is their new Argentinian playmaker, designated player, who will wear the vacated number 10 shirt. His name is Maxi Morales. So Maxi Morales has played in Argentina, obviously. He's played in Italy for Atalanta. He spent last season at Lyon in Mexico. Didn't go so well because of multiple coaches. But I watched some footage of this guy. He is one of those like classic Argentinian number 10s, like short, fast, dribbly, muscly, can't knock him off the ball. This is going to be the final piece in the puzzle, I think.
Is Leon where Rafa Marquez went? Is that where he is now?
So.
If so, do you think Rafa Marquez was like, hey, we don't like those Red Bulls guys. Play for that other New York team. Be mean to them. Maybe he's got that like instilled in him from last season.
It's possible. Yeah. It's possible. Let me tell you about Maxi Morales then. Here's what I predict for him. He is my specific prediction. Maxi Morales, 30-ish years old, I think, in Major League Soccer, will have his first, to use an Americanism, double-double season.
Okay.
That means he will get double digits goals, double digits assists for the first time ever in his career. So he's one of these guys that has always looked impressive, right? He's only got one cap for Argentina.
Them's Giovinco numbers. That's bold.
Well, he's come close elsewhere. I'll give you an example. His best ever pair of seasons for Vélez Sarsfield. Top division, Argentina. 2009-10, he got 7 goals, 11 assists, nearly. The next season, he got 13 goals, 9 assists. That's the best he's ever done. Every other season, he's had 6 goals, 5 assists, like a smattering. I honestly think he'll sort of be given the keys to the car in NYCFC. It's probably a bad analogy because there's not as much driving in New York. He'll be given the conducting baton for the NYCFC orchestra. He will run this team. He'll have a lot of talent around him. He'll have Jonathan Lewis on the wing. Remember watching him for the U20s? Jack Harrison. Rodney Wallace has joined. David Villa finishing off the chances. I think this is going to be Maxi Morales' career season.
Okay. That's interesting. And you make good points about the supporting cast. There's a man who you've forgotten here, who seems like would be one of the ones that you want to mention when you mention NYCFC.
Andrea Pirlo?
Yeah. And you did this last season, actually. You had this idea that Andrea Pirlo would be kind of phased out, that other players would come in, that he wouldn't be able to create plays. That's not quite what happened here. So why will that happen this season, do you think?
I'm not saying he will. Pirlo will still be a major part of this team, but Maxi Morales is a number 10, as in deployed in the attacking midfield.
Why would he be given the keys, is what I'm saying. Like, if you've got Andrea Pirlo there who... he's going to be that deep line playmaker doing what he wants.
So you're saying there can only be one focal part of the team?
Maybe. That's what I'm asking. Is like, do you think that's the case, or do you think like it's surprising to me to hear that a team that has Andrea Pirlo in it that is clearly kind of knows what his limitations are.
Okay, so in some ways maybe I haven't thought this through, because you can only have one focal point. But like when I look at, let's say, Max Morales at Club Lyon, I'm thinking of, he's not always starting, he's in and out of the team, right? Maybe same with Atalanta, he's not a regular starter every single time. So when I say like conducting the whole team, I really just mean like he'll be the number 10 and he'll be like one of the first choice players every single time.
I got you.
So it won't be necessarily that like he'll come and steal the ball off of Andrea Pirlo.
And make him sit down on the bench.
Yeah,
that's it.
But in terms of their playing style, right? If you watch NYCFC play, they do this slow build-up. They try and pass it up, but they also mix it up where Pirlo will bang a diagonal ball out to one of those great wingers, right?
You had to say mix. You had to say mix it up.
Sorry. But then once the ball goes forward, then it will be Morales' job to sort of do the playmaking from the top of the box kind of thing. So I'm really expecting him to do really well.
All right, and he gets to see what a baseball stadium is, so that's exciting as well.
Yeah, where are we with NYCFC Stadium?
I think still at Yankee Stadium. I could be wrong.
No, I mean, is there any plan? I haven't seen any plan that like we've definitely got this new stadium coming in X year.
I don't know. I'm not up to date on all of my MLS Stadia watches. Mostly just DC United at this point for me. That's about it.
A couple other players worth mentioning. James Sands is in the TSS scouting network. He's a 16-year-old defensive midfielder who's been getting minutes in pre-season.
16 is too young.
16 is too young. I think, again, like Andrew Carton, he's going to be with the U17s mostly, right? They got qualifying, they got World Cup. That takes up a big chunk of your season, right? When you put in the time that goes in the camp beforehand and then the recovery time after. So again, we might not see much of him. Jonathan Lewis, I'm excited about.
Yeah.
You saw him for the U20s, right? Against Haiti. He's got speed, he's got moves, he's back and forth. He will play this year. He will cause some trouble. NYCFC have depth on the wings. They have all kinds of players.
All right.
Finally, they have Sean Okoli. Do you remember that name?
Yes.
USL top scorer for FC Cincinnati.
There it is.
Yeah. So he's going to be the backup to David Villa. I wish him luck, but he's going to be the backup to David Villa.
Yep. That's it. I mean, he was very good in the times that we did see him last season.
Yes.
I would worry if I were opposition defenses because that's a decent amount of talent that they've assembled there. The question will be, can Patrick Vieira continue to figure it all out and find a way to make it all work within one cohesive unit? We shall see. I think
he's got enough young players that they won't be complaining about playing time.
True.
You know what I'm saying? Like Jonathan Lewis isn't going to be like, I should be starting every game, right? Kyrie Shelton will play one of the wings. Maybe he'll be he's always looking to improve himself, but he's not like senior enough to be like, I should be playing every game.
Okay.
Yangel Herrera. Do you remember him? We added him to the Scouting Network. He's officially on loan from Man City to NYCFC, but he's only, I think, 19. He's talented. He's not going to be demanding minutes. I think it's all going to work.
Okay.
I've got big things for NYCFC this year. Maxi Morales, a double-double. 10 goals, 10 assists, 2017.
All right, so you think it's all going to work out for NYCFC? I think it's all going to work out for the New York Red Bulls.
Even without Dax?
Yes. It's been an interesting offseason because essentially they got rid of Dax McCarty and they signed no one big.
Yeah.
And that's, I think a lot of people thought, they're getting rid of McCarty. They've identified a weakness. They want to bring in a big-name player. They're going to do that this offseason. I don't think they will. I do think, as is my prediction, that they're going to sign another designated player in the summer. But I think there's a reason for this. I think Jesse Marsch has looked at the most recent teams that have been winning MLS Cup. They are not the ones who were started strong or even strong mid-season. They're the ones who finished strong. And I think a big component of that
They didn't just press all season and then get exhausted and then...
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, like, I think Milano for Portland came in mid-season or near the end of the season. I know Nico Ladero came in for the Sounders mid-season.
Yeah.
So there's
that's more of a rescue job than a addition job.
But it sounds like they've been courting him for a while.
Yeah.
And it makes me wonder if that's what the Red Bulls have identified is we don't need to be the team that wins the Supporter Shield and plays consistently good for all of the regular season and then flames out come playoffs. We need to be the team that's hitting our stride when the playoffs start. And so I'm wondering if they're basically going to blood the youth, and that's very much what they're focused on doing.
Tyler Adams.
And then, well, he might not even get to play because they've got even more youth in front of him.
What's going on there?
All right. So if you want to go that route, so we basically got Tyler Adams, 18-year-old, who a lot of people want to deputize for Dax McCarty, who is now gone. But it seems more likely that it's going to be Sean Davis, who's another homegrown player, 24 years old. Seems like he is going to be the starting defensive midfielder for the Red Bulls. So a lot of people are excited about that. A lot of people are excited about Aaron Long, who's the 2016 USL Defender of the Year. He's been promoted. So it's a lot of these young players, played for New York Red Bulls 2, coming through the academy. They're basically very much focused on developing that youth and playing that kind of 4-2-2 system, getting everybody used to that, and then
4-2-2.
Yeah, they're going to play two men down, see how it goes. But I do think that basically midway through the summer, they're going to look around and think we need to hit that extra level, so we're going to find one player that can help us do that.
I believe Matt Doyle was talking about if they do this 4-2-2-2, what they'll need is like another like major striker to go alongside Bradley Wright Phillips, and that may be someone they go after in the summer.
It would not surprise me.
You could hold off until the summer and still make that work, right?
Yeah, and I can't claim to have watched a ton of the Red Bulls last year, but I can tell you that by all accounts, Gonzalo Verón was supposed to be that other striker, and no one wants him to be that striker anymore, or at least he hasn't proven yet that he deserves to be that automatic striker, automatic starter alongside BWP, although I think he probably will be the most likely candidate to do that at the beginning of the season. It does seem like maybe there's a chance that is the big name signing that comes in the summer.
So you're telling me there's a chance?
There's a chance for Robert Lewandowski.
I declared him.
That one fits, though. That one fits.
That would still be a big ask.
Yeah.
Any Sacha Kljestan updates? Will he still be awesome in 2017?
Not if he keeps hitting Panenkas the way he does. So there is, if you want to go like negative on the Red Bulls, there is some concern that a big part of why they've been so successful so consistently is because you have that strong partnership of Dax McCarty and Sacha Kljestan. Now you've got a lot more weight on Sacha Kljestan's shoulders, and he's a year older, and you haven't really...
Is he the armband wearer now?
I believe so. Yeah. And you haven't really reinforced with proven entities. You've got a lot of youth coming through, so it does seem like it's going to be a lot of responsibility for Kljestan, and then it will be interesting to see how he handles that responsibility if he does so.
We are getting towards a point in Major League Soccer where teams are replacing players they lose with homegrown players who maybe have some USL experience. Right. We're going to see whether this works or not. I really hope that this is the thing that teams are like, oh, this actually works. We can just do this, and then that will cause all kinds of young Americans to get all kinds of chances in Major League Soccer.
Yep, I'd be fine with that. Yeah, I would have no problem with young players getting young minutes.
And then the
young minutes.
The Argentina Primera Division could be like, oh, we can keep some of our players now. Thank you.
I think we talked about this last season too, because I had forgotten what Bielo's first name was and just knew he was Argentinian, so I guessed Moro, and I was right. It seems to be a recurring theme. Argentinians in the league doing big things.
Any more on the Red Bulls?
That's about it.
Okay, let's move to Orlando City. So another team with a new stadium, but I think they'll be playing in it from the beginning of the season, right? The 25,500-seat Orlando City Stadium. I'm kind of excited to see this. They got that sort of the wall, I think they call it, with the it's all standing. Should be really lively. I know a lot of Orlando fans will be excited to go there. I'll list you some new additions later, but I've got my big prediction for them is last year. They had a negative goal difference of -5. They conceded 60 goals, which actually was the most in Major League Soccer in 2016.
Woo, Chicago, not the worst anymore.
The season before, they didn't concede the most goals, but they had a -10 goal difference.
So they're going for 0 this season?
Positive goal difference. Okay. This is my prediction for Orlando City. I don't want to predict that they'll make the playoffs because it's so hard to make the playoffs. I think it's easier than it is hard. Yep. It's actually hard to make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference. But Orlando will have a much better season. Jason Christ full season in charge, and they will have a positive goal difference.
Okay. So let's talk about why that's going to be the case. Because I would say, based on what I've read, what I've heard, you are in the minority when it comes to feeling that Orlando City are going to be better this season.
Really? Well, okay, you look at the defense last season. We saw so many horror shows in defense, right? And Tommy Redding is still there, still developing. I think Seb Hines was let go. They brought in Jonathan Spector. Jonathan Spector, I think, underrated.
Okay, I want to talk about this. I've heard a couple different podcasts talk about Jonathan Spector as though he is... I don't even know what the lockdown defender of choice at present would be. But it's like as though he's N'Golo Kante and it's like his hunting down and tackling ability. And then he's Boateng or Hummels-esque in the way he can mark players out of it. Like, it's Jonathan Spector. He's playing for Birmingham City in the second division in England.
Yeah, but he's still done a lot more than, say, Seb Hines or Tommy Redding, right?
That's very true.
I mean, this is an absolute upgrade in central defence. They've also got, is it Aha? I think it's pronounced Aha, which is a great, they have Aha moments. He joined sort of towards the end of last season. He's now signed permanently. So that will be your central defence, Spector and Aha.
Does he frequently invite people to take on me?
He does.
Okay.
But then he wins the ball.
That's a deep cut from the 1980s, I believe. When I was like 2, I think, when that song came out.
In front of those guys, Orlando City have also signed Will Johnson, right? Will Johnson has joined. Will Johnson will organise the midfield, help organise the defence. He will take out opposition playmakers. That's what he's great at. Will Johnson does so much of the sort of unheralded work that helps you keep a much better defence, right? So the addition of those 3 players, especially Will Johnson, Jonathan Spector, I think they'll have a positive goal difference 2017. Okay. And Brett Shea will not be playing left back. He's been traded to Vancouver for Giles Barnes.
And now the one, is it Moreno or Molino that they sold?
Molino,
yeah. Well, how does
650,000 in allocation money?
So that's my question.
It's a record.
How does that factor into your prediction, though? Because by all accounts, he was the creative player. He was the one that kind of drove that attack last season. You're missing him. So you still have Kyle Larin, you still have Kaká, but aren't you in a little bit of trouble after that?
Enter Carlos Rivas.
Okay.
So Carlos Rivas, in pre-season, Carlos Rivas has been partnering Kyle Larin, and it's been working out. And it's Kaká behind them. That's what's been going on. It's been a Jason... someone on Twitter, I've forgotten who it was, asked me not to talk about this, but it's been kind of like the
I forced you into it?
The famous Jason Christ diamond, right? Like a 4-1-3-2 kind of diamond. With Rivas and Larin up front. If you've read, I remember reading Matt Doyle on Kyle Larin. He's really convinced that this is one of potentially the best strikers in MLS. He's probably going to get sold at some point. My original prediction was going to be this, that Kyle Larin would be the top North American goal scorer in Major League Soccer, right? Which sounds like a big-ish shout, right? I looked back.
It does.
He was exactly that in 2016 and 2015, which means every season he's been in the league, Kyle Larin has been the top North American goal scorer in Major League Soccer.
Do you know how many he got last season?
He got 14 last season and 17 in 2015.
Okay, so 14 in the regular season because obviously they didn't make the playoffs, which is, like Josie, I think, had 10 in the regular season.
Okay. 6
in the playoffs, I think. So we got to that 16 before.
Oh, yeah, Altidore came alive in the playoffs.
This is
season.
True.
So weirdly, he's been the best North American regular season goal scorer for the past 2 seasons. So I'm assuming you wouldn't let me have that prediction if he's already done it twice in a row.
I don't know. You could, whatever. Predictions are predictions. If you want to say he'll continue that run, sure. I think you should go all out. I think you should say he'll be the top scorer in the league.
Okay, Kyle Larin for Golden Boot.
Okay. Can't believe I talked you into that one.
Forced prediction. Well, why not, right? It's just a bonus prediction. My actual Orlando prediction is that they will have a positive goal difference.
Right, gotcha.
Right. And if you're wondering why Kyle Larin is so good, this is the Matt Doyle thing I picked up on. It's his backswing. He has the tiniest backswing in Major League Soccer.
Huh. That makes sense.
You think about that. So, for people who haven't played as much soccer, imagine you're in goal or you're a defender. You see the striker pulling his leg back to shoot. You're getting a little bit of a telegraph of what's happening, right? You know what he's going to do. Kyle Larin does it in a split second, so you barely see it. That means he can surprise you with a shot. That's why he's been the best North American goal scorer for the past 2 seasons.
I feel like that's very samurai-esque. So I'm going to say that Kyle Larin is a samurai. We're going to leave it. Kyle Larin is a samurai and Tracy Jordan is a Jedi. We'll go with that.
One final note. Tyler Turner in the Scouting Network. I looked into him. Still has not been re-signed, does not have a club for 2017. This concerns me. He's an exciting young American right back. He, as far as I understand, he should be a professional soccer player. So I'm not sure what's happening.
We shall see. Time will tell.
Maybe he can sign for the Richmond Kickers?
I'd be okay with that. One player who could have signed for the Richmond Kickers, but instead signed for the Philadelphia Union's affiliate, that's Hugh Roberts, which is my way of getting to the Philadelphia Union.
Yeah.
I got there eventually. It just took a little bit of time. I'm going to say they're the best MLS team composed of Bradley-era U.S. soccer veterans. Maurice Edu, Charlie Davies, and Oguchi Onyewu are all probably going to get minutes for this team this season.
So Philadelphia Union will almost win the Confederations Cup.
Exactly. But actually, my actual prediction is that they will play, I don't know how specific this is, but I'm going to go with it anyway. They will play more exciting soccer than last season and generate more headlines for some of the reasons I've already mentioned, but they will miss the playoffs. Philly made the playoffs last season. They were the last team in the East.
Yeah.
I think they will miss the playoffs this year round.
Okay. Any particular reason?
Yeah, because I think they're still kind of like Orlando. I think that they're still building towards something, and they're not quite there yet. So, for example, a lot of people were very concerned about defensive midfield last season, the fitness of Maurice Edu, and they seem to have just said, he'll probably stay healthy this season. We'll go with just Maurice Edu. Then there was concern about center backs. And
just put him a bottle of ibuprofen.
Yeah, there was concern about the center backs and the minutes that would be available there, or more so that they needed people to come in case somebody got injured. They brought in Oguchi Onyewu. Somebody got injured. Now Onyewu's going to start. I don't think he's played regularly in the last, 2 or 3 years?
Yeah.
So it's been a while, and suddenly he might be a starter on opening day. Seems like he will be. So it just seems like they've brought in...
For the record, fingers crossed that goes really well. I would love to see sort of Pete Onyewu back in MLS, winning headers left, right. I say back in MLS. He's never played in MLS before, has he? I'd love to see Pete Onyewu winning balls in MLS. No, he went straight from college.
That's amazing. You're right.
From college to Belgium.
That. Yeah.
Yep.
But so for Maurice Edu has not played in preseason at present. Not ideal. Alejandro Bedoya is still going to be your number 8 shuttler, but there's still not much else around them. So you don't really know what to make of this team, but I think they'll be okay. I think that, again, with Ernie Stewart there, he's signing smart players. He's bringing in young, exciting players on the cheap, but I don't know if that translates to proven success this season.
Can we get Hugh Roberts to Philadelphia Union somehow?
I wanted to make that prediction. I wanted to make that prediction so much, but I don't know how that happens because they're not... It's not like it's Philadelphia Union 2 or Bethlehem
It is.
Steel.
They are. So Bethlehem Steel, I looked into this before recording, they are owned and operated by the Philadelphia Union.
Yep.
But if you sign a contract with Bethlehem Steel, then you're a Bethlehem Steel player, right? You can't be a lot of those players at Bethlehem Steel will be Philadelphia Union players on loan to Bethlehem Steel. Hugh Roberts is not that. He starts the season as a Bethlehem Steel player. The only way that they can definitely easily then promote him is if he's on the discovery list, which is, I think, I searched the MLS site, it's private, so we can't tell if Hugh Roberts is on the Philly Union discovery list. But having watched him play for a whole season, every home game, I really feel like Hugh Roberts could play MLS tomorrow.
I think so, and I think he did say when he left Richmond that part of it was that he cited greater opportunities for MLS experience.
Yeah.
So maybe there is some sort of discovery aspect to it.
Can we assume he's on the discovery list? Because it'd be crazy to do it otherwise, right?
I would hope so.
Yeah.
Is it crazy to say, and it's mostly just because I've seen him recently and seen him play, that I would probably take Hugh Roberts over Oguchi Onyewu right now? I mean...
On 2016 form.
Yeah, but that said, we've seen photos of Oguchi Onyewu since he's opened up a training facility here in Richmond.
Yeah.
Still very fit. Still very big. Yeah, so I'm sure he'll do just fine.
I would not pick a fight with him, I'll say that.
Definitely not. I feel like I might have just done that on this show. Other names to keep an eye on are 19-year-old homegrown player Derek Jones, who's supposedly the new Jermaine Jones. I've heard that a lot over different previews. Fafa Picault, who you might remember from FC St. Pauli.
U.S. national team player.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Briefly.
He is there. He went on trial, signed a 1-year deal. And Jay Simpson. And here's the interesting one. Jay Simpson, exactly.
Why do I know that name?
You don't. Daryl made a very confused face, which is why I said exactly. He's a 29-year-old striker from Leyton Orient. He's been there his entire career, League One, League Two striker. 25 goals last year in League Two. Yeah. So it's essentially... They're hoping that he's the new Bradley Wright Phillips.
Okay.
And a big part of that is...
just sign any random League One striker and be like, you're the new Bradley Wright Phillips.
You can do it, yeah. And you look at the team last season, their goals came from midfield. Chris Pontius was their leading scorer with 12. Yes. Tranquilo Barnetta had 5. Alberg had 9. Harper's 3. So that's where their goals came from. So I think they're trying to bring in... unproven, but maybe like well scouted attack, and to kind of partner him, Jay Simpson, with CJ Sapong, who didn't get 10 goals last season, much to my chagrin, and maybe see if you can kind of again for the second time this show, lightning in a bottle.
I'm sorry, did I miss your prediction?
So it was basically that with all of that, but just because there's so many, like, well, he could do this, or this might work, or this might not work, or he could get injured. It just seems like there's lots of options, but there's no proven answers. And so with that in mind, I think that there will be more interesting games from Philly, and there will be interesting storylines this season, but they will not make the playoffs.
Okay, so they'll be more entertaining, but they won't make the playoffs.
That is exactly what I wrote down, yes.
Okay, final team, I believe, is Toronto FC, your 2016 MLS Cup runners-up, just because of Stefan Frei.
Yep.
Remember, they lost the penalty shootout.
The fingertips.
Toronto almost had MLS Cup in the trophy cabinet. Big news mentioned earlier, Will Johnson is gone.
That's so sad, because we were so excited about that last season.
I think that's a big loss. I think losing Will Johnson is a big deal. Michael Bradley is still there. Josie Altidore is still there. It's going to be basically the same team. The only two big additions are Chris Mavinga, who's a new centre back. He'll join that back three, and Victor Vazquez. He's an extra attacking midfielder they have signed, which leads to my prediction. We've mentioned Matt Doyle a couple of times, our favourite MLS soccer writer, just a well of MLS knowledge, because as he's told us on the podcast, he watches basically every game. It's his job to watch every game. He is big on Jay Chapman.
I knew that's who you were going to go with.
Did you?
I have it written down right here. Yep.
So for good reason. If you've seen Jay Chapman, young, I think he's like 23 years old. 23-year-old Canadian attacking midfielder, has all the talent, but does not get regular starts for Toronto. Matt Doyle was suggesting that because they hadn't signed a new attacking midfielder, then Jay Chapman will finally get some minutes. Then they signed Victor Vazquez, who's this Spanish attacking mid. Yeah. So here's my prediction. At some point in the 2017 season, Matt Doyle will write an article, hi Matt if you're listening by the way, for MLSsoccer.com expressing his disappointment with Jay Chapman's lack of MLS minutes.
Okay.
That won't be easy to search, right?
Yeah, I think so. But why do you think it'll be Vazquez? Just because he was signed and probably more money? Or why do you think they just won't give the reins over to... 23 is young, but not like he's not 17.
Because they just signed a high-profile Spanish attacking midfielder, right? And they've also got like Michael Bradley's in there. You've got Armando Cooper's in there. There's a third midfielder I'm forgetting about. Mikey Delgado's there. There is the younger Jonathan Osorio I'm always talking about. I think Sheru is still there. It's crowded. It's good, right? Because you play that three-man midfield. It's hard work. You need a lot of different midfielders. But it feels like just as Jay Chapman was getting up the pecking order, in comes this sort of bigger name Spanish guy, and Jay Chapman goes back down the pecking order.
Yeah, okay, I agree with all that. For a period of time, I thought I had Toronto FC to do the prediction for. And I'm glad I didn't, because I don't really want to make this, but I want to mention this. It does feel like Toronto have been decently lucky in terms of their designated players. Like, I know Josie Altidore has missed a little bit of time here and there with hamstrings and other little injuries. I know Giovinco was nursing an injury in the playoffs.
Giovinco did not go to China. That was the other big thing of the summer, right? There was a suggestion that he was going to take a even bigger money move to China. He decided to stay. That's the biggest thing probably that happened.
I think he decided to stay and was like, I don't want to go to China, like straight up. But it does feel like maybe they're due for a prolonged injury to one of those three.
Oh, don't say that.
I know, I don't want to, but it's just like Josie has had his injury issues before. Giovinco is very small and gets kicked a lot. Michael Bradley has been on a kind of consistent run of good health.
Yeah.
It just seems like they're maybe... Because I don't see how else they don't just kind of steamroll the East, because Toronto were so good last season, seem to have reinforced in a very positive way. And so I could just see like a complete blindside, like Michael Bradley goes down for 6 months.
The bigger problem would be the wing-backs, right? That Toronto system is so based on Morrow and Beitashour as the wing-backs. If either of those guys go down, then the sort of no one is quite as specialised as them.
True. Chris Mavinga, who you mentioned, I think can play left-back as well. So I think he was brought in with that kind of versatility of left-back,
left wing-back or left-back?
We'll see, I guess. Well, maybe we won't see. We'll see if Toronto stay injured or stay healthy. Rather.
Don't you be cursing their DPs. Don't be doing that.
Never.
So there you go. That brings us to the end of our Eastern Conference very specific predictions. Predictions were made. You happy with what you got, Taylor?
I think so.
You stand by them in 2018?
We shall see.
You won't in 2018.
Probably not most of them, no.
I stand by mine for now. If you enjoyed this show, please share it with an MLS-loving friend. We're going to do more MLS coverage this year, so we look forward to having people tune in and listen to our MLS takes. Hot takes? Medium temperature takes.
Medium temperature takes, yeah.
Considered medium temperature takes. They've been taken out of the oven and left to cool for a while and then double-checked.
All right. There's so many cooking metaphors to go with. I got a little bit lost in my own head.
So our Western Conference preview will be coming later this week, maybe 48 hours or so. We're also going to be reviewing the USA's U20 World Cup qualifier against Mexico U20 on a separate show. Until then, Taylor Rockwell, thank you for taking the time to talk to me today.
Right back at you, buddy.
Listeners, thank you for listening, and we'll talk to you again very soon.